Hi, Melanie Muenchinger here, illustrator for Gina K Designs. Today I'm sharing a new project for you with several different sets that I have today from Gina K Designs using the fabulous frame and a layout that I don't believe I've shown in a video. So this is landscape style with the oval to the right. And then I'm also going to be showing you how to color this carnation from my Stately Flowers 4 set. This also contains a rhododendron and a hibiscus, and I've done these in other videos, so please look for those. But this is a really simple flower to color, really beautiful, and I'll show you how you can also layer that flower. Also, this is optional, but I'm going to be showing you how you can add some of the accents I haven't shown in a video to the fabulous frame. These are from Fabulous Holiday Fillers, and all three of the sets that I'm talking about today are currently in stock in the Gina K store. So we're going to use this little triangle border that kind of looks like a pinking border if you had cut it out, and then we're also going to be using this houndstooth little belly band filler piece. And then you can also use one of the coordinating greetings inside. Fabulous frame set and the Stately Flowers 4 set have butterflies in them, so you can use them from either set that you want to make a little embellishment. The other products that we're going to be using for today's card, I've already got it stamped here in the Memento Tuxedo Black on some Gina K Pure Luxury White, and this is just 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. And then I've also got some of the Gina K Cherry Red that I'm going to be using to stamp that triangle border. You're going to need some various blocks, so we've got a big 6x6 block here for the fabulous frame stamp. You could also use a Cuttlebug plate. Then some smaller blocks and a long block for doing the border and the smaller images. I've got some foam squares and some scissors for cutting out any additional pieces that you want to add to layer on there. And then you'll just need an additional scrap of paper for the stamping. The Spectrum Noir markers that I'm using today to color in this carnation, I've got the LG3, the LG5, and the JG5 for those leaves. They have kind of like a minty color. And then the DR1 and the DR6. You could really get away with just using one color on these, though. It's very easy to color these. So that's for the petals. Okay, so to begin, we've got our frame stamped here on the cardstock. You'll want to also use a mask, and so the way that you do that is after you've stamped this, if you don't have a mask ready, just stamp it right onto some regular printer paper. That makes it easier to cut out, and it's very thin. It's a lot thinner than regular cardstock, so it's not going to bump up as much on that edge when you're stamping into it. You won't get as much of a skip, but you can just cut it on the line, lay it down, and I've also shown in my video introducing this set how you can make masks as well, where you have this whole portion cut out because that's like one layer. Then you can also have, I believe I have the mask over here. I'm not seeing it now, but you can also cut out one just for the belly band. But I'm only going to use this one today because we're going with a pretty clean and simple look. So I'm going to just lay that on there and ink up the carnation in the Tuxedo Black. And there's lots of different ways that you can angle this, but I'm putting it a little bit to the left. Okay. And then you just remove your mask. And let me go ahead, I'll go ahead and put the greeting on there while we have the Tuxedo Black pad out. So I'm using this Cherish Every Moment. This is from Stately Flowers 4. And this will work for a lot of different occasions. I'm kind of imagining this being for a graduation card. I had picked out this You Make Me So Proud, Always Have, Always Will. But you could also do it, I've got, a friend who's going through kind of a hard time right now. A lot of unknowns and uncertainties, and so I think this would be a great card for her because a lot of memories and a lot of character building during this time, even though it's rough. Okay, and then I'm going to take that little butterfly and I'm just going to stamp it a couple times around here just to finish that off. Okay, so let's go back to coloring this card. Okay, so let's do, first we're going to put the lightest green down onto these leaves. And I have colored this before on a card that I showed on my blog, and I realized going back to Google Images today that I had colored this to look like it was a little bud emerging with the same color I did for the flower. And actually, Carnations, they have this really large kind of little green, I don't know, pod at the bottom here. So this would all be green if you're trying to make it accurate. But color it how you want. Okay, then I'm going to use this LG5. So this is your middle shade. And I'm just putting this over wherever you see those dark lines in the image. So it's just going to be at the base. It's going to be off to one side and just on the underside of all of these areas. And then right here a little bit because that's overlapping, and then the underside of that. And then we'll take this beautiful jade green, this JG5, and put this at the very darkest, just right up against that petal. So the more contrast that you have in your shading, the more that the light areas are really going to glow. So it's important to have that darkest area. Okay, now for today on the framing, I really like to color in my borders so that they all stand out. You could do all one color, or the way that I did today's, I went ahead and did light, medium, and dark. So let's go ahead and fill that in. I will give a tip though, the lighter the ink shade that you're using to color it in, the easier it is to color in because it'll just fill into that dark border. But the darker the shade is, you have to be a little bit more careful of going outside those lines. And I think that the curved border is a little bit more tricky than the straight borders are, but what I do is I just keep my wrist in one place, and then when you follow, it's going to go in a natural curve. And you just have to just barely touch it because the ink will wick out into the cardstock and it just fills it in really nicely. The heavier you press, the more likely it is that that alcohol is going to seep out past your border. So just give it a very light touch. And again, it just depends on the look that you're going for if you want to have all of these come together. But since you've already got all these marker shades out, it's kind of fun just to do different ones and have them each stand out. And the way that we're going to color this carnation today, there's a lot of different kinds of carnations. So again, I encourage you to just Google carnations, and then the image will show that there are solid colored carnations, striped carnations, and then carnations that have either a white edge with color on the inside of the petal or white on the inside and color around the outside. So really kind of fun to color a stamped carnation in these different ways. So today I'm going to have the white on the outside, and I'll bring my finished card over here to show you. So let me lay it flat like that so that you can see. So I'm going to put the red on the inside, and it has a jagged edge just like the jagged edge of the petal, and so I thought that would just go so nicely with this pinking triangle border. Okay, so I'm going to take my lighter red, the DR1, and I'm just going to go in. So it's going to go on the underside of every petal, but it's just going to come out. You're just going to make a little zigzag with your line, and that is mimicking the edge of that petal. So I'm coming further out on these bottom ones because you can see more of them. You're just getting that edge, but then on the smaller ones where you're not seeing as much of it, it's going to be thinner. So again, anywhere that you see those dark lines that's casting the shadow, this is going to be the colored part. And then I'm just putting just a touch in, just wherever there's an edge, just on the top side of the ones on the top. And the more the petal that's showing, the further you can come out. Okay, but just see how easy that is, and that really looks like a real carnation. And then you can take this DR6 just to deepen the very underside there. And it may be hard to see in the video, but in real life you can see just adding some richness to it. This is going to pull in the cherry red because I wanted to go a little darker with my border than Red Hot. So this kind of really brings in this bluer red. Okay, now let's go ahead and stamp those borders because you might choose to just leave it like that. Oh, I also want to put the belly band in here real quick. So get my smaller block. So I have these little curved areas. They have these different patterns, and I've already used the plaid and the polka dot, and I believe the stripe in my other videos. Oh, hang on, I did not want to put this on the red. Let me grab some scratch paper here. So I'm just gonna dab it onto this. Okay, so I wanted to use the black. And the fun thing with these patterns is that after you stamp them, you can go back in and color over them with a marker if you like. So on this houndstooth, if you wanted to pick out just different little sections of those little checks, you could do that. Or just go over the whole thing if you wanted to maybe use the red marker on that. But I just love the black and white with the red and white. Now pardon my head, I just got a peek over here. So just lay it on there, and when I don't see any of the white, then I just press that down. So that's looking really pretty and clean, just like that. But I want to show these borders. So when you're putting these borders on the block, especially the curved one, what I like to do is lay it down so that it can go into its natural shape. A lot of times when you have a longer border and you try to apply that, it's going to stick in one spot and it's going to get a little bit wavy. So I laid this down, pressed my block onto it, and then I'm going to go onto the card. Now, if it's hard for you to stamp borders sometimes, or hard just to get it lined up, even though you can see through these clear stamps, then what I would recommend that you do is, instead of going right up to the edge of this border, to bump it out just a little bit, because it is the same width as this frame, but it can get a little trickier to go right into the corner. So there's a couple ways that you can kind of fudge that, but I'm just going to go out a little bit. And what this is doing, it's actually creating another layer. So that's just a different look that you have. So I'm going to go ahead and ink this up again. I'm going to turn it because I don't like having to stamp a long border like that. It's much easier for me to hold it like this. So pardon my head, and I'm going to just bump it out about the same distance that I did before. It's about between 1/4 and 1/8 of an inch. Okay. Yeah, I'm really liking that actually better than this one, because I think that works really well with the white and the red. I think about all these things when I'm designing my cards. Maybe nobody else notices them, but that's just how I like to work when I'm choosing what elements go with what and what you can kind of have echo on your card. And so then I'll do the same out here. And this could go either way. You could have it turning towards the end like this. You get a very different look, but so I'm just going to pop this out just a little bit and then turn it this way. Okay. Okay, now this smaller flower, this one does not have a stem with it, so this is great for stamping to create backgrounds or to cut out to put on this second little bud here. So you would color that in exactly the same way, and then you would just cut that out and pop it up. I'm just going to show it. This is already stuck down over here. Okay. So I would just line it up with this little bud. So you're just adding a little bit more dimension there. And then this little butterfly, there are so many different little places that this could go as well. And you've seen me color this one before in other videos. So trying to make your eye kind of go around the card. So I would put it probably about up here or maybe here. And that's it. Just fold it. I hope this gives you lots of ideas for that carnation, as well as how you can use your fabulous frame and all those different little fun filling elements from Fabulous Holiday Fillers. Please visit my blog, Hands, Head, and Heart, for more ideas and inspiration for all of our stamp sets, and see us at Gina K and Stamp TV for more ideas and more videos. Please subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching today. God bless.